So Annie, we'll just let everyone filter in for a little bit and then we'll get started.
Okay. You see the number going up, so great to have you people joining us this morning. We'll wait a few minutes for more people to be able to participate.
All right, Annie, I think more people will get on as we go, but if you want to go ahead and get everyone started and we can go through some updates before we get into our all our distinguished guests today.
Okay, great. Welcome to everybody who's joining us for this month's Zoomed In on Real Estate. I'm happy to see the sun out and hope that temperatures warm up a little bit today. It feels like spring is just around the corner. So today we have 4 distinguished guests from all over the country who are going to talk to us about what their market areas are like for them. And to start us off, Ryan is going to update us a little bit on the current conditions here on Cape Cod and the islands. So over to you, Ryan.
Great, thank you, Annie. Ryan Castle, the CEO of the Cape Cod and Island Association of Realtors. For those that don't know me on the call, our monthly Zoomed In on Real Estate, which is brought to you by the Cooperative Bank of Cape Cod, and we really appreciate their support monthly. And we'll probably have them on soon to talk about some changes in the mortgage market going on for next month. Or on that note, couple updates. Remember, if you guys are working into your Cape Cod real estate specialist designation, we have a new requirement this year on implicit bias training from the Fairhaven, from the National Association of Realtors. As part of it, all the requirements that you see here that we've talked about before. But a lot of those classes, core classes, you can get in the next month. As always, we're running online live CE 1 o'clock on Wednesdays. Our upcoming classes, the next 4 are toward that Cape Cod real estate specialist designation. And then our second iteration of the new class we just wrote, Protecting the Protected Classes in Real Estate, on April 14th. And the following week, Selling the Sun, all about solar, with as you're seeing more and more, and we're hearing more and more questions around solar. So you've got that solar CE class coming up, Fair Housing, on April 28th to round out Fair Housing Month. And then in the first week in Wednesday, the other new class we wrote recently, short-term residential vacation rental, for those that handle short-term vacation rentals, C class, all about how to manage those and how to and the ins and outs of the legalities of those, especially under the Massachusetts short-term rental law. So, upcoming broker webinar from the Massachusetts Association of Realtors. The Massachusetts Association of Realtors Legal Counsel will be joined by a couple of attorneys from brokerages at Jack Conway, Coldwell Banker, and Gibson Sotheby's to have a conversation about the current issues. For those that were at the brokers that attended our recent broker turning roundtable, Richard Sullivan from Gibson Sotheby's, who was part of that, is on this one. So it should be a great discussion. I would enjoy March 29th at 1 o'clock for an hour. Take the time to look through, to listen to that. Also, last week, the president signed into law the American Rescue Plan. A couple updates for real estate related to there. The pandemic unemployment assistance that many real estate professionals have been collecting has been extended to collect until September 6, 2021. This includes the additional $300 per week. And as an independent contractor, if your income has been affected by the pandemic, you can still apply for the pandemic unemployment assistance at mass.gov, and it can be retroactive back to when you were affected. You can start the process at mass.gov. Also in that bill, talk to your CPA if you collected pandemic unemployment assistance last year, as they have excluded up to $10,200 in unemployment compensation from federal taxation for those with adjusted gross incomes of $150 or less back to last tax year. Also, it allocated more money for rental assistance. If you have a landlord who has less than 20 units, they can apply directly for funding on behalf of their tenants if they haven't been getting paid. you can go to hackoncapecod.org/landlord-assistance right there on the screen and start that process that the Housing Assistance Corporation of Cape Cod, our good partners, are the ones administering all the regional funds for landlord assistance and tenant assistance for rentals. So a couple other things coming up. We've launched a new page called Realtors for Clean Water as we work on pushing wastewater infrastructure as we see that as a benefit for homeowners. We've got 2 webinars posted that we ran back in the late last year. The next generation of septic systems with the Barnstable Clean Water Coalition, and all about the Barnstable County Septic Loan Program and how if you don't have a passing Title V septic, your sellers can go and get a loan at the Barnstable County Loan Program and then pay it off at closing. Also, we have 3 coming up events around this. Town of Barnstable is proposing a sewer assessment ordinance for how you hook up to sewer. We've got that coming up on March 24th. We've got a preview of the sewer articles that will be at Mashpee Town meeting on April 8th. And we've got a overview of what the Dennis Harwich Yarmouth sewer plans are and where Yarmouth stands with some upcoming votes they have around building their sewer plant on April 14th. So take it all out. Check it out at CCIAOR.com/cleanwater to check all that out. As I mentioned before, if you haven't, you should try NAR's new interactive fair housing simulation, Fairhaven. A lot of good positive response from that, working as we work on housing discrimination. A couple quick updates. We're still looking for people for our public records task force and our product lab. Product lab had an interesting demo last week of a product, and then they have another one coming up in a couple weeks that you'll want to be on for as well. So if you're interested, contact Nick on our staff and he can hook you up with information for both of those. A couple coming up MLS trainings. If you're not using Flow Plan yet, I encourage you to take the time to look at it. For $12 with an app on your phone, you can create floor plans, link directly into the MLS to link to your listing. It's a great app we've been providing to you guys. You've got some more Flex MLS trainings coming up, as well as a webinar, the new RPR that's launched as they redid what they do, and then our staff holding upcoming quick dips, which are designed to be 15 minutes long for you to get in and out of different features of the MLS. This one, the first one on March 25th, is about the new live CMA feature in Cloud CMA, and then on March 30th, the difference between listing collections and saved searches and how those work. So take the time to look at those. Real quick on our market before we get into our market panel. New listings, we sent out our email yesterday with our market update. New listings fell for the 2nd straight month, which is concerning, right? That 45% decline in new listings. January and February are the first 2 months that happened, while we had to go back to last May for the last time we saw a year-over-year decline in new listings. As our inventory now has fallen for single family to 343 by the end of March. With last year at 1,500 and February at 1,700. The interesting part is it's going to be really hard going forward to look month by month over the next 3 months, because those were the height of the stay-at-home orders from March, April, and May. And so we saw really drastic decreases in things related to pending sales, new listings, all that, to really compare year to year. So we're probably going to look back at 2019 to see how the market's doing. And then bright spot, though, we might have bottomed out on inventory. The last 2 weeks, we have actually seen net increases on Monday compared to the previous Monday. Now, granted, I think there were like 5 1 week and 6 next of net increases, but maybe we finally bottomed out with that. But this is the first time since August we saw those net increases. So perhaps more is on the horizon. And I'm going to stop sharing and introduce our great panel we have for today. And I hope I didn't run through that so quickly, but as always, our recording will go out with all the links. Now, with everyone we have today, I just want to say to start is we'll get their contact information out to you guys afterwards if you have questions for them about their marketplaces. But I asked you guys on several different venues, I keep hearing back from you that it's sellers that your sellers aren't listing because they have nowhere to go. So I said, where do they want to go? And kind of 4 markets really emerged from talking to you as where the people want to go. The traditional market in Naples, Florida, and Palm Beach, Florida, and then 2 emerging markets I'm hearing more and more sellers want to go in the Scottsdale, Phoenix area in Arizona, and the Charleston, South Carolina market, which, as most of you guys know, is dear to my heart that people want to go there. So I'll introduce everyone I have around and ask them to unmute as well. But starting out in Naples, Florida, we have Corey McCloskey, who is the Vice President of Operations at John R. Wood Properties down there. Corey, thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
And we have Jeffrey Cloninger, who is a realtor at Sotheby's International Realty in Palm Beach, down there in Florida. So Jeffrey, thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Happy to be here.
And we have Colleen Olson in Scottsdale with Arizona's best real estate. So Colleen, thank you.
Good morning from sunny Scottsdale.
And Owen Tyler, who's the managing broker at Cassina Group in Charleston, South Carolina. Thank you, Owen, for joining us.
Thank you for having me here today.
So I'm going to start with each of y'all kind of talking about what's going on in your market. I think all of you guys are probably being squeezed on inventory like we are, because in areas where people want to go, and we've seen a real rush on the pandemic side. So I'm going to start with you, Corey, where more people are familiar with in our market with the Naples market. Talk about what's going on down there in Southwest Florida.
Sure, yes. So much like the rest of the nation, our new listings are down year over year. Actually, we're down 8%, which is not really that bad in the grand scheme of things. In February of 2020, we brought on 1,500 new listings in our area. And in 2021, we brought in 1,400. So we're not really down that far in new listings. But the flip side to that is our properties for sale year over year are down 65%. So in February of 2020, we had about 7,000 properties available for sale in the greater Naples area. And now we're down to just about 2,000. So over the year, especially during the pandemic over 2020, people flocked to Florida. As you and I talked about, Ryan, a lot of people didn't even leave Florida. So they were down here and they stayed because we had a governor who left us open for the most part. So whether you believe that was the right choice or not doesn't really matter, but it is what it is. We spent a lot of time outside, and people really seem to scoop up those single family homes. We have a lot more condos on the market for sale currently. So we do have inventory. You just got to be quick about it, much like everyone else on the panel, I'm sure.
And Jeffrey, what's going on in the Palm Beach market in the last year? And we'll talk a little bit more later about how it's changing, but I'm sure, as we've all seen the Wall Street Journal and New York Times articles about New Yorkers flocking down to Palm Beach.
Right. And I think we should say up front, when we're talking Palm Beach, when I'm talking Palm Beach, I'm really talking about the island of Palm Beach, the town of Palm Beach, versus Palm Beach County, or sort of the greater area. What Corey was just talking about with those numbers in the thousands, the town of Palm Beach is a small area. We've only got 7,900 full-time residents. So the numbers I'm going to talk about are specific to Palm Beach. Last year at this time, we had 178 houses for sale on the island. Today we have 30 something. Our prices have done things that nobody could possibly imagine. What the comps were 6 months ago, even 6 weeks ago, are not what the comps are now. So what we're seeing is a great shift from people being winter residents in Palm Beach to becoming full-time permanent residents. So we've got a ton of people from Manhattan that have come down that typically would be winter people that are all of a sudden becoming full-time Florida residents. We've got what seems like half of Greenwich, Connecticut seems to have moved down here fairly recently. I think the reasons are several, but I think COVID sort of was the big wave that pushed everybody sort of over the seawall. Property taxes for a long time up in your area, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, et cetera. Property taxes have always been a hot button for people coming down here, wanting to spend more time and wanting to be full-time Florida residents. Combine that with COVID and technology, with the ability that most people have now to be able to work from kind of wherever they are. I think all of that kind of has created this bubble that we're in right now in Palm Beach. I don't see a hard landing. I see kind of maybe a soft landing, because I realize this cannot, keep on forever. And there's not an infinite number of people making $50 million a year, leaving Greenwich and coming down here. At some point, that sort of exodus has to sort of abate. But in the meantime, we've got the strongest market I think Palm Beach has ever seen in its history. We had a great 04, 05, and 06, and this is kind of 05 on steroids. Honestly, as Corey was saying about her market, if something comes on the market here, you need to act immediately or you're going to lose out. I had a deal last week, $4.5 million on a teardown on this not such a great street. And I brought the guy in within 2 hours of the listing coming in the MLS, and they already had 3 offers at asking price. Cut to the chase, within 72 hours, that $4.5 million teardown was already bid $1 million over asking, and it hadn't stopped. So, it's the kind of market, I've been doing this a long time. I've never seen anything like it. The toughest thing in my market is when somebody says, hey, Jeff, what's my property worth? Because it's kind of like, what it was worth, 6 months ago and 6 weeks ago is really not what it's worth today. So anyway, having said that, we've got a very, very, very aggressive market going on down here. And despite what the Wall Street Journal said the other day in their article, I don't have people telling me that they're planning on returning to New York or Connecticut. Everybody that I'm dealing with is planning on staying down here. So we'll see what happens.
Colleen, you're kind of a newer market for us for seeing a lot of sellers wanting to go there, probably because of some of the stuff going on in Florida. They're looking at other places, right? And Arizona is a comparable kind of location, I guess. So what are you seeing in the Scottsdale market? We're seeing national stories of California people fleeing, kind of coming to Arizona, but you're probably seeing it from all over the country.
Yeah, a lot like Florida, we didn't really close down. Arizona is packed. It's streets are busy, restaurants, everything's really has been open. And, we have spring training. We still had the Phoenix Open, the Barrett-Jackson car show they were all more out of a minimum. But I think when like California shut down, they're still shut down. So they just got in their car, they can drive within 5 hours. And a lot of them just decided that, this is where we want to live. And we have a major hub airport here, so they can fly to LA, San Diego within 1 hour. So if they have to go to their work, Monday through Friday, it's an easy, super easy commute. If you sit at a stoplight right now, I can count most of the cars, the license plates aren't from here. They're from somewhere else. You get a lot of Californians, but you get a lot of people from Chicago, Minnesota, and usually Minnesota and Chicago would kind of go towards Florida. But a lot are coming here. I think, pricing used to be reasonable. It's, of course, everything is skyrocketing. Our supply is down 70% from a year ago. Right now in Scottsdale, we have 396 homes on the market for 25 miles. Normally you'd have probably about 4,000 to 6,000 homes on the market. Something comes on immediately. I put a luxury listing on the other day. Within a couple hours, 7, 8 offers. And a lot of it is, cash. California, it's still really reasonable. And, whenever it snows too, it makes people want to move even more. So, during the cold winter months, January to February, whenever there's a snowstorm, my phone rings off the hook. It's just so funny because it's like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. We want to live where it's warm. Granted, it does get hot here from June to August, September, but it never stops. We have a very active lifestyle here. Everybody's outside running, biking, hiking. You can go up today. I could go ski 2 hours from here and come back and play golf all in the same day. But the market is, it is tougher for new builds. There is still some area. Phoenix, Scottsdale, still pretty new, still kind of a baby really compared to the rest of the country. You can definitely build in the outskirts. But a lot of, in Paradise Valley, Scottsdale, lots of tear downs. So, or guts, a lot of remodels going on. Because as you know, when land is shortened, values go up. So it's, and you know what, the jobs, the medical field has gone gangbusters. I do a lot, 82% of my business is relocation. So the medical field, I help a lot of the physicians move here with the major hospitals. So that is really driving our force here. Active listings are down 61% from a year ago. So we're hoping maybe when the rest of the country opens up, some people will feel like they don't have to come here. Not that we don't want people, but maybe like California won't feel so tied to California. We have very low property taxes here. Most people from the East Coast, when they look at a property, they go, "Is that taxes for the month?" I'm like, "No, that's for the whole year," and they're amazed. So it's a great place to live. I've lived here 31 years from Minnesota.
All right, Owen, what's going on in the Charleston market? And I know your brokerage kind of concentrates Charleston proper and the barrier islands and stuff down there. So what have you guys been seeing?
So like all of you, inventory is crushing us. If we had more houses, we could service the people that were coming here. Like your states, we did more of a partial shutdown, unlike the northern states. And so our governor put on some restrictions, but our local cities and counties placed an overlay of restrictions. So in some areas you may be shut down, in other areas you may not be shut down for the most part, but most everything in the greater Charleston area is open with mask ordinances. And so that seems to be a huge attraction because of our weather from people all over the country. We're pretty mild as it would be. I mean, we get cold here, but as people think, it's not really very cold, and then we're warm in the summer. So kind of that happy medium. But our inventory is a huge problem here. Most things sell within a couple of hours of going on the market. So we recommend when buyers come in or when agents call us from other parts of the country that they educate the buyer that when they get down here, they're going to probably look at 3 different things. And probably by the time we get out of the third one, the first one's already under contract. And so we really, really try to stress that if you're looking to get into the market, that it's there. We would normally have 10,000 listings in the Charleston area or the Charleston MLS. This time of year, we have 1,200. And so we just don't have the inventory. The houses are there. And so we do a lot of off-market work with reaching back into other clients, past clients, and trying to see if they're ready to sell. We do a huge, Charleston is becoming and has always been a travel destination. So #1 small city in the world, #1 city in North America, all these different things. And so I think people have spent years and years and years of coming here, 20 years of saying, oh God, I love Charleston. I love the living history, the outdoors, the restaurants, being close to the mountains, close to the beaches. And now people are like, hey, I think I'm going to actually make that move. So we'd started seeing an influx of people before the pandemic. So if you look at our 2019, the end of 2019 through March of 2020, you see this huge influx of people, particularly from the Northeast and the Chicago area, kind of moving in, even feeder areas such as Atlanta, Georgia, and Charlotte, North Carolina. Yes, there are 2 Carolinas. There's North Carolina and South Carolina. We get that question a lot. But seeing those feeder areas that kind of come into the area, this massive influx. We shut down in South Carolina, probably a complete shutdown for a couple of weeks in March, and we're back open fully by the end of April, and the floodgates just kind of opened for us. And so we're still servicing people as they're kind of coming in. So.
Yeah, all right, great. So Jeff, I wanted to ask you, because we had an interesting conversation, is what you're seeing now. I think you said what we're seeing on the Cape, but you're seeing to an nth degree. On the Cape, we've seen over the last year now, younger buyers and more wealthier buyers than we've ever seen before. I think you said you've kind of seen the same thing, but at just a totally different level. Can you talk about, the different changing buyer demographic you're seeing in Palm Beach?
Typically people think of Palm Beach as being older people, but for the last 20 years, the demographics have been getting younger and younger, and we've had a lot more young people with families moving in. But yeah, what we discussed yesterday was I'm seeing a lot of people, let's say in their 40s, with young kids. We've got one school here that hasn't had a waiting list in probably, 35 years, that has a waiting list of I think 75 or 80 students waiting to get in. There's just an influx of families who are going to be, permanent full-time people. And again, I think the difference is it used to really be a big deal if somebody spent $50 million or more on a house. Now, we certainly have a wide variety of inventory. We have anything from basically $3 million to, and up for houses. But the number of houses that have sold in excess of $20-50 million has been phenomenal this year. So it's not just the amount of people who are flocking to Palm Beach, it's the amount of money that they have at their disposal. So I think it's going to change Palm Beach, and probably, as far as the youth aspect goes, probably for the better, because it certainly doesn't hurt to have a population that's younger. And I think that a lot of these people are respectful of the traditions that Palm Beach has, and I think they're attracted to that, probably the same way they are to Charleston. I think people realize that Palm Beach is a different sort of destination, and I think what we have to offer is different than what all these other very desirable places in Florida have to offer. So I think that the big difference to us is just the sheer number of people with vast sums of money who are all flooding this island wanting to live here. So, and I think that's probably true. I'm looking at Corey and Colleen, Owen, across the board. I'm guessing that probably everybody is seeing this influx of people who are saying, we can live anywhere we want to live because of technology, and we'd rather live in good weather. And also, as the others are pointing out, Palm Beach never really shut down. We had a period of time for a couple of weeks at the beginning of COVID when people were being a lot more careful, but the private clubs, I think, were more shut down than the public things were in Palm Beach. So every restaurant here is open for lunch, dinner, breakfast, takeout. We really have, I guess, probably the most open environment, I'm guessing, of any place in the country, because we've been safe. We don't have an outbreak of COVID, but the beaches are open, the restaurants are open. Everything is kind of business as usual now.
All right, and Corey, you're nodding your head. Are you seeing the different kind of buyer demographics coming to Southwest Florida too?
Absolutely. I can certainly echo what Jeffrey was saying. One of the things that kind of popped into my head when he was talking was the top agent in the company that I'm in sold something like 204 million last year, which we were really excited about. And I just heard through the grapevine that by March 15th, he'd already closed 370 so far this year, because he flies his own plane, and these people that he's been cultivating year over year, probably much like Jeffrey's market, he double-ended a 52 and a 52 million. And it's just, we're seeing this influx of younger people with money coming in. It was just, that's just mind blowing to me, that amount of sales in such a short amount of time. I'm a native here of Naples, and I think there's like 5 of us total in the entire city. Everybody moved here from somewhere else. And, but I am seeing a lot of people, my age with kids moving here. And it's really exciting, because it's not just for my parents and grandparents anymore. And so again, that working from anywhere, it's opened up a whole new area for us. So we're really excited.
Are you seeing a lot of complete renos under buying? And is there new construction in the outer parts happening right now? What's exactly going on to try to add some inventory levels?
Absolutely. We're a fairly new-ish city for the most part. We were built up in the 50s and 60s, so we don't have a lot of long-standing inventory, but those houses, those teardowns, those Michigan 3-bedroom, 2-bath that are, less than a mile away from the water, those are being torn down, and they were building those mega mansions. We were very Mediterranean for quite a while, and we're seeing a lot of people come in, scoop those up, tear those down, and and build the new contemporary style. We do have a fair amount of new construction still, so which is good. You know, it's obviously flying off the market, but because we have, Collier County is the largest county in Florida, and because we are 50% conservation, but we still have a fair amount of land that we're looking to build on. In the outer fringe, kind of like you were talking about before, Ryan, we have kind of in the estates, we call it, you're about 20 miles from the Gulf, but you can still buy, you know, a 3.2, a 4.2 for, you know, 400,000. You're going to drive to the beach, but the rest of your amenities are close. You know, amenities are huge around here, much like in a lot of the areas. We have over 100 golf courses. So if golf's your thing, that's been great, but we're seeing a move away from golf. We're seeing kind of that resort lifestyle, those mega pools, those huge fitness centers, you know, and those are going in instead of the golf courses. So it's really an exciting time to be in this business for sure.
And Colleen, they're seeing the shift away from golf. Have you seen that? Because I mean, Scottsdale obviously is like Naples, a lot of golf course communities, or are people still wanting that?
Oh, absolutely. You know, and I think Arizona used to be, people used to think Arizona is like for old people. You know, back when I was young, Phoenix was known as like, that was like the retirement company or a place to go. But again, the young people with the money, it's, you know, we just had a sale, and this is crazy because you're talking 52 million. We had one for 25 million. That was big for us, you know, in Scottsdale to have a $25 million sale. But again, the people want the lifestyle, the young people coming with money. It's unbelievable. And if they can't find what they want, then they'll buy in an area where they can just, again, tear it down. Because we were built in the 50s and 60s also. And there was lots of horse property, still lots of horse property here in Arizona, in Scottsdale, you know, little pockets. And there's a brand new house that was torn down, and this barn that was built on it. I mean, it's unbelievable. You know, hard to imagine that somebody would still want a house with a barn. But there's, you know, it's still known as the Wild Wild West a little bit. But the golf courses, you know, thriving. Golf is huge here in Arizona,
So
still
Corey,
and forever.
Corey talked about entry level for them is like about 400,000 for a single family detached at this point in some of the new builds in some of the areas. Probably only the new builds you can kind of get in there for, right? What are you seeing in Scottsdale? What's the entry level point? Obviously, you can go up high, but what is your entry level at this point?
Let's say 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 500. Starting about 500 now. You know,
that's what we've seen on the Cape, right? Like on the Cape Cod, 3-bedroom, 2-bath Cape Ranch that we're all familiar with, right? Has always been, last year was probably in that 350, 400 range you could get in for, and now it's 500,000, right? And so we're seeing people even for that second home tend to want to look elsewhere now that we're only have that 300 to 400,000 for that second home. I'm hearing some reports with some of that, or that even 500,000, 600,000 what they could get for it is different than and looking at going elsewhere now. So we're seeing even second home guys being priced out here at some level. Owen, with Charleston has always traditionally been this dichotomy between year-round and then still some beach communities. What are you seeing as far as, is it becoming more year-round? Is it even the beach communities or in some of your barrier islands, or is it still people with homes elsewhere?
So we are moving toward a year-round, but we're still probably like a 3/4 year type of market here. So we're lucky in that we have a pretty active airport. So we have a number of people. Well, we have 2 private jet ports and then an airport itself. But we have direct flights every day back and forth to New York, DC, Boston, and Chicago. And so that brings a lot of people who are kind of working here remotely a couple of days a week and flying back to their main city. And so we're seeing this kind of, I call it a 3/4 market. We've had a huge influx of people who say, I'm buying today because I believe that in 2 years, I won't be able to buy what I want here. Or if I don't do it now, I'll never do it. And so we're seeing a lot of that where they're coming in. We have, for those of you that don't know anything about Charleston, we can serve everything. So it does not, if the garbage can was on the street since 1920, it is a historical monument and we will not move it under any circumstance. And if you paint it, it has to be selected from a historic color of what that garbage can should have looked like. So we don't tear down anything unless you're in kind of the suburban area. And even that is a very difficult process to run through our towns and zoning and appeals boards. And we give every single resident in town the right to come out and tell you, you should not tear down your house. That it does not matter if, you know, it's a wreck anyway, you cannot tear it down. So tearing down here is a long process. We sell a lot of houses with the intent of tearing down. Like y'all, we're a hurricane prone area. We haven't had a hurricane, knock on wood, in a long time, but we're a hurricane prone area. So anything that you do more than 50% of the square footage, basically you're just tearing down the house because you have to bring it up to current building standards and flood standards and all these exciting things that cost a lot of money that people don't really think about until they get halfway through the process. So we're seeing that kind of 3/4 market. Our average sales price, because Charleston has a variety of different housing available, runs about $369,000. For the most part, nobody wants anything that's $369,000. You would think that the lower price points begin in new construction, but the lower price points actually begin in that really, really pretty 80s construction that everybody loves.
The way Cape Cod it works too. So.
Everybody loves that 80s look. And so the lesser expensive stuff comes from that 80s look. If you're in the 70s, that's a hot thing right now. So 70s construction is really expensive. And 90s through today is really expensive. But the 80s are kind of pulling our average sales price down, whether it be condos or single family homes. So, but for the most part, most people moving in here probably buy somewhere between 500 and 700,000 is kind of the sweet spot of the market. We go up really, really high here. Our firm is known as kind of the record breaker. So every year we break our own records. And so this year we've already broken our records from last year with the first 90 days of the year, almost first 90 days of the year. So it's just a variety of market. The biggest difference that we have and the biggest struggles that buyers have when they come here beyond the inventory is that our housing is smaller and our land is smaller because land's at a commodity. So we function off of a lot of zero lot lines, a lot of 0.2 acres or 0.3 acres. And for the most part, the average size house in the Charleston area average is no bigger than 3,000 square feet. And so people will come here from LA and say, well, I'm on 10,000 square foot on 4 acres, and we just don't have that anywhere. That just does not exist in our market.
Jeffrey, you talked a lot about yesterday with me about the condo market. Can you talk about, you know, where Palm Beach is in that condo market now? Because you saw at the start of the pandemic, it kind of completely kind of stagnated, and now you say it's come back a little bit.
Yeah, it's coming back kind of with a vengeance. When COVID started, actually the condos hadn't been that active for the last year and a half pre-COVID. When COVID started, a lot of the buildings weren't allowing people in, agents to show, they wouldn't allow residents to have guests. The buildings were kind of shut down. So once that eased up a bit, the interest in condominiums still remained at a very, very low point. I had a listing in a building that had, I think, 9 units for sale. They were all priced between 1.2 and 1.4. In a 9-month period, only one of those units sold, and it sold for half the asking price. So it was kind of like, whoever wanted to bail, just sort of, and did it pretty dramatically. I had told all of my clients who had condos that my best guess was when housing prices hit a certain point in Palm Beach that were just, not attainable for a lot of people, the shift was going to go toward condominiums. I think a lot of my clients thought I was saying that because I wanted to keep the listing and not lose the listing. And I was just sort of trying to toss some hope out there. But I actually did feel like that was going to happen, but I didn't know whether it was going to be in a year or two or 20 minutes or what. But that started to happen really just this past probably November. And all of a sudden, condos that have been languishing on the market with nothing happening, for a year, 18 months. I had units that nobody had even seen in several months. All of a sudden, that housing group, people who were looking to spend, say, $2 or $3 million on a house, when there's really nothing left in that price range, and the entry level is now more like $4 million. those $3 million house buyers are basically, they're going to buy in Palm Beach, forced to look at condominiums. And it was like this giant vacuum came, and all of a sudden, things that I didn't even have requests to show, I've got under contract, and I've got like 4 or 5 people backing up wanting to see it. So yeah, the condo market has taken a great turn for the better just in the last couple of months. And it really is directly due to the fact that the single family house market has gotten so expensive. If you want to buy in Palm Beach and you want to spend, that amount of money, say $3 million or under, you really have to consider condominiums, because, or you got to go across the bridge. And that's why I said in the beginning of this, Palm Beach County is a big county. The town of Palm Beach is a small place. So, there's a lot of inventory over the bridge, but what we've got right here on the island, there's just not much. And what it was mainly was condominiums that were left. And now all of those are starting to be absorbed. So yeah, it's a very, very, very healthy real estate market if you're a seller right now.
So you're seeing buyers choose the condos rather than go to Jupiter or some other areas off the island.
It's the buyers do different things. If a buyer wants water, Jupiter, Folly Beach Gardens, those areas have great, terrific waterfront properties, and they're at a fraction of the price that they are in Palm Beach. If people want Palm Beach for the lifestyle of this little island, they're more willing to go right across the bridge to West Palm Beach, like Flagler Drive and those condominiums. So, I think it's the lifestyle makes a difference in where people want to settle. If somebody wants to spend $5 million and they want waterfront, they're not going to get it in Palm Beach, but they can get a very nice place in Jupiter or Palm Beach Gardens. West Palm, things in West Palm that were sort of languishing a year ago are being scooped up within hours of listing. The same thing in Palm Beach, just a different price range. So yeah, I think it's a very unusual time. The big question everybody's got that no one can answer is, when does this slow down, or when does it end? And when it does end, how abrupt a change is it? Right now, from what I'm seeing, I've never had as many new clients in one season as I've had this year, and there have never been fewer properties to show them. So, my advice to people is always, when they say, what's the best time to buy? You can't time the wave perfectly. I mean, if you want to be a buyer, you might as well do it now, because chances are it's just going to be more expensive later. And, who knows what's going to happen in the future, but I can guarantee, having done this for a long time, the prices are not going to get cheaper. We're not going to have, this is not like the financial crisis of, 08 or, whatever. It's not going to come crashing back down. So I think if somebody wants to get into the market, now's the time to do it. And somebody said something that rang true with me too. A lot of people, I think, who were thinking in a few years we're going to retire to, Florida, Arizona, South Carolina, wherever. I think a lot of those people with COVID thought, life is short. I can work from anywhere. I'm not going to do it in 2 or 3 years. I'm going to do it now. So I was just with a client yesterday from Manhattan that said that from March until February, they really did not leave their apartment. So they're delighted to be here in the sunshine. The beach is nice. Everything's open. It's sort of a different world out here.
All right, great. And Jeffrey, I just wanted to, because you told a great story. 25 years ago, you sold a house for $325,000. You just put it under contract for what?
Well, that wasn't something that I was proud of, and I didn't put it under contract. It just shocked me, because I thought, good Lord, have I gotten that old where I sold a house for $320,000? About 25 years ago. The same house, substantially the same house without big improvements, just sold for $3.8 million. So it's, more than 10 times what I sold it for originally. That sold in October. And this is really, it just shows how strong this market is. That same $3.8 million house that sold in October went back on the market last month at 5.8, which should be laughable. I mean, it's just kind of, stupid. You can't have appreciation like that. It just doesn't make any sense. And then they had an offer the next day, I'm told, at 5.7. So, that's what makes it frightening as a broker, is when somebody, like I said, when somebody says, what's my property worth? It's a little bit of a daunting question, because the property is worth what somebody's willing to pay for it. And, I think that, all of us on this panel represent very desirable areas. And I think we're seeing that there are a lot of people who are saying, we really don't care what the price per square foot was last year or 6 months ago. We want to be there, and we want to be there next month. And if this is the price we have to pay, it's the price we have to pay.
So Colleen, in Scottsdale in '08, we saw that being one of the hardest hit markets in the country. Do you see that coming again for Scottsdale with the conditions, or are the conditions different this time than in '08?
Well, I think completely different. And Arizona was the first to crash. And I think we were one of the first to come out that first year from August of 2011 was the ping, the bottom of the market. And then in 1 year, most houses had an appreciation of about 17 to 33%, you know, from 2011 to 2012. Most people have a minimum of 20% equity in their home. So, you know, they could sell their house, even with the forbearance, if anybody had to do that. You know, that's another thing, you know, is, you know, some of these areas where people haven't been making their mortgage payments. I'm not sure if that's really going to affect our market at all, but most people have so much equity and the demand is there. They could put the house on the market and have no problem. We don't see it crashing. If anything, it just, because of California more crumbling, I think more and more coming here. We don't see any crashing coming soon. I mean, anything can happen, but good news too is we don't have hurricanes or we don't have any really natural disasters here. And so people they're still going to come.
Corey, you know, are you seeing people getting priced out? If so, where are they going into, and where, kind of give us the lay of the land in that Southwest Florida area?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, we're much like probably everyone else on the panel. Listings come on, and within a couple hours, we're, you know, having agents run through with FaceTime with buyers somewhere else if they're not there, and we're getting offers sight unseen using escalation clauses, you know, which is amazing. And you know, some that are getting tired actually moving a little farther north than us. So we're obviously Southwest Florida, so that encompasses Collier and Lee County. So just north of us, we have Bonita Springs, Estero, Fort Myers, even into Punta Gorda or Port Charlotte. So the farther north you go, you still have, you know, beautiful Southwest Florida waterfront, but the prices become a little more inexpensive. So we are seeing people move up a little bit north. So, you know, I certainly don't want to talk anyone out of Naples, but we do, if you're looking for something that's, you know, a little more on that not inexpensive, but more bang for your buck, let's say. We do have, you know, Port Charlotte and Punta Gorda. It's a lot like Naples was 20 years ago. But again, you've got some waterfront in the $200,000 range, which is amazing. And that's riverfront, which takes you out to the Gulf. But it's going to be that 50, 60, 70 style that you can either refurbish or bring up to code, as Owen was saying. So we have plenty of options down here still, much like everyone else on the panel.
What's going on in the condo market in your area? Because it's obviously start of COVID, probably people wanted single family detached. Is that still the case? Is condos still kind of languishing over there?
It is. You know, we were really hot with all the single family houses because everybody wanted their own space during early on in the pandemic. But condos, much like Jeffrey was saying, kind of perked up towards the end. You know, a year ago, we had an 8-month supply of condos, and now we have just about a 3-month supply. So over that year, they've gotten kind of snapped up, but they are coming on the market. So I mean, we are getting listings on the market, which is good. You know, it just depends on how fast people can get those offers in.
All right, great. And Owen, what else around the Charleston market that we haven't hit on that you want to stress, or, you know, the whole coast of South Carolina as you kind of been exposed to the whole area on that, of what's going on? Is like that all over the state?
It is like it all over the state, which is unusual. Charleston has always kind of been the serious real estate market, if you will, for lack of a better word, where the consistency has always been there. But the entire state of South Carolina has seen this huge resurgence of boom. I think South Carolina is ranked one of the top 5 move-to states in the country at this point. We're a relatively small state. You can travel from one end to the other in 5 hours. And so that's kind of a nice thing. So, but all of the areas are seeing the boom. It really kind of comes down to lifestyle for us. And and price point. And we see a lot of people who are hell bent on Charleston one way or the other. And if they can't find what they want, then they rent, or they rent a short-term rental and try to extend that into long-term in an attempt to wait for something to come on the market for them. So we're happy about the market. We're optimistically cautious about the market. We just are wondering every day what we're going to sell. So literally every morning we wake up and kind of like secretly pray that there will be some like godsend of inventory that just drops in out of the sky at MLS, and we can all move forward and be happy again. Yeah, I mean, you know, with lots of new construction here in the suburban areas, but we see a lot of people moving to the area, don't want to wait for new construction. They want it now. And I think that has a lot to do with the environment and the world that we live in, where everybody wants everything now, this very moment, and our sellers are no different. Our sellers hate sale contingencies, all those kind of things, and we'll look for anything to not take a contingency on a sale of another property, particularly in another state. So most people who come here and are ready to buy have sold, and we call them carpetbaggers about 200 years ago, 150 years ago in South Carolina. And it's kind of a resurgence of the carpetbagger, where people are moving down here with everything in their possession, and their trucks and their cars, and the big moving vans show up looking for a place for storage, and they say, we're ready to buy today. And that's kind of what happens here.
Yeah, I mean, kind of Charleston and Scottsdale and the Phoenix area, I think, are areas where you can kind of go on the outer skirts and find more affordability, right? And kind of drive to qualify type of options. Colleen, are you seeing people come to Scottsdale and end up elsewhere in the Phoenix area because of the pricing, and where are they going in the Phoenix area after Scottsdale?
Well, you know, Phoenix butts up against Scottsdale. And so, I mean, and it's quite large. We still have so much land to build on. Again, we're still kind of a baby, but you know, with all the California fires and stuff, the lumber shortage, I'm not sure if you guys are seeing the same thing. But even in a new subdivision, let's say there's one called Desert Ridge. It's new upcoming. Last week, there was 125 families on a Zoom call for lottery for 4 lots. And those homes are, you know, $600,000 to $800,000. But you can go, you know, more in the outskirts for a single family home, starting anywhere from $300,000 to $400,000. You can get a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house further out, but it's definitely still feasible because we have so much land to build on. If we could just get more lumber, that would.
Yeah, it's interesting on the lumber side, because in the Northeast, we're seeing the lumber shortage coming in from Canada, things like that, when we were at the tariffs and some of the issues. But, you know, I never thought the California wildfires would affect the lumber out on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's our biggest problem is lumber shortage. And so in the new construction in some of the subdivisions, the prices go up $5,000 a week.
Well, yeah.
Well, if anyone has any questions, put them in the Q&A. If not, we'll kind of wrap up with, let's try to give some people hope, right? Like, so if they have a seller that wants to come in their market, you know, what should they be telling their sellers? Hey, I want to get into Naples right now, but it's hard to find something. You know, what should they be telling them about what's the takeaway to go to tell that seller who's up here right now, who says, well, I just want to wait till I get down in Naples before I put my house on the market up here?
You know, I think the takeaway would be, you have to find, you know, in the greater Naples area, I think we have something like 7,000 realtors. So, you know, it's that old adage, you throw a rock and you can hit a realtor, right? I mean, that's kind of how it is. And which is true. And I think that the best thing that someone can do on this call is to find an experienced realtor that's been around a while, that knows how to navigate this market, that knows how to use technology to their advantage, that has good relationships with realtors. You know, this business is crazy. We all know it. It's the only business where you're in competition in 1 minute, but the next minute you have to cooperate in order to get deals done. So who you hire matters, and who you choose. You know, I think that it's a wonderful time, and you know, we can definitely find you something here if you're open to options. So we're happy to help in any way we can.
And we had a question come in, Corey, and I know Owen's touched on, Jeff's touched on a little bit, but what's the rental market down in Naples? If they might not be able to find something right now, are the people able to find any either short term for 30, 60, 90 days, or even the winter or long term?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we've got a pretty strong rental market. I mean, this is obviously our January, February, March, and April are our highest rental places. But, we've got a lot of companies down here that specialize in rentals. We don't do a lot of like single day rentals in the Naples area, but you can get week or a couple weeks or a month in Naples, Fort Myers, Bonita, all along that entire area, even Sanibel and Captiva, which is in our market as well. So we have some availability, whatever you're looking for, because people are coming in and leaving all the time. So we do have those available.
All right. And Colleen, what's the big takeaway for people that have sellers wanting to go to the Scottsdale market? And then are there some of that, 3 month, 6 month rentals available for those that may want to get down there and then wait to find in a winning bidding war?
Absolutely. They put a lot of restrictions. There are some communities that can still do VRBOs, short, like 1 week. But a lot of the communities, minimum 3 months, 6 months. So there definitely is the rental market is still pretty strong here. And May, June, and July are big for people to put their homes on the market because they'll be moving for schools. So they're waiting for that transition. And then you'll have people who, are waiting out for the weather, April, May, and they're finally like, you know what, we're ready to sell now. We're going to move back, or, Canadians, a lot of Canadians that, bought during the downturn, are putting their properties on the market. So I think in May and June, I think we're going to have definitely more listings coming on. And again, it's very, very desirable. Most people are staying full time now. It's not just a, come for the winter months. So, but yep, we're here, and there's, it may not be available right now, but it will be. So don't give up. Don't give up hope. You can still move to Scottsdale.
And Jeffrey, what's going on for those that want to get in Palm Beach and can't find what they want? Obviously your markets, especially on Palm Beach Island, is a little more discretionary purchase than a lot of places, but you have a lot of clients in our Austinville or Nantucket areas up here, things like that. Are you seeing availability in rentals, or everyone kind of hunkering down in their house now, and you're seeing that availability kind of dry up for those 3-6 month winter rentals and stuff?
I wanted to ask, I realize I'm not the moderator, but I wanted to ask you, if you could ask the others, I'd be very curious how this upturn in the sales market has affected their rental prices, because our rental prices are quite a bit different than they were a year ago. And I'm wondering if with the three that I see on the screen, Corey, Colleen, and Owen, I'm wondering if you had a corresponding increase in your rental rates, or if the rental rates stayed more or less the way they were. In Palm Beach, because we have a limited inventory, and because we're 4 blocks wide and we're about 11 miles long, so we're a very small place, and we do have restrictions. You can't do VRBO things here, and as Colleen was mentioning, it's the town restricts and then the county restricts, and anyway, we do mainly. There are a few places that'll do a 1 month rental on a house. We do mainly 3, 4, 6 month type rentals, but our rental rates for houses, not as much condominiums, but houses, the rental rates have sort of followed right along with the rising sales rates. Can I ask the other panelists, is that the same thing they're seeing there? Are the rental rates tied to the sales rates and all kind of going up quickly?
Corey, what are you seeing with Naples?
Yeah, sure. So good question. Yes, Jeffrey, we are following in the same suit. Single family rentals that were for 1 month were $5,000 a year ago. The homeowners are asking $6,000. So you're absolutely right. We are seeing that uptick as well. So we are following suit.
And Owen, what are you guys seeing down there in Charleston on that? Are you able to get in that 3-6 month kind of rental area if you need to?
So, like Palm Beach, we have a lot of restrictions on VRBO type of stuff. And so you have to be in a zone. So the rentals are there. Everything is increasing. just because of the demand of people looking. We're moving from more of a, so we're technically seasonal in Charleston. So our season runs from February 1st through December. So I guess technically January is off season. So now that we're moving into our quote unquote season, you can do more of a month by month rental as opposed to a 90-day rental. We certainly have apartment complexes that can kind of be rented out in furnished units and that kind of thing. And so what we see a lot of people doing who are looking at transitioning down, but maybe don't know exactly what part of town they want to be in. Do they want to be, along the coast, or do they want to be 1 mile in? So when you think about us for geographically, Somerville, which would be kind of the farthest part of our market, would probably be a 20-minute drive to the beach. And that probably encompasses about a third of what we do, in the Charleston market. And then you have everything kind of in between. And so nothing's far away. So a lot of people come in and rent an apartment or a furnished condo, and then kind of explore the areas. We're hoping for some inventory coming out. We're moving pretty quickly through the vaccination process in South Carolina. We're about 20% or 22% of the state vaccinated. And so restrictions are being lifted every day in local communities. And so we firmly believe that in the Charleston market, as more and more people vaccinate, or as if herd immunity actually takes effect, as some are suggesting, then that will in return create a comfort level where more houses are actually coming on the market. And so we're expecting more inventory. It will not be anything drastic like last year. We just, or year before last, we just won't have significant inventory, but there should be some more option maybe. But it's funny, y'all were talking about wood for new construction. We can't get windows because everything here has to be a hurricane-proof window. And so they use wood and particular glass to reinforce for the hurricanes. And so we have new construction homes sitting with no windows that can't move further in that process because we can't get a hurricane-proof window.
Owen, we had a question coming for you around some of the beach communities, the resort areas, Isle of Palms, Sullivan's, Folly, Kiowa, Seabrook, some of the nationally known beach communities down there. Have you seen a rush for those as well?
So we've seen a dramatic rush to Sullivan's, Folly Beach, and Kiowa and Seabrook. Isle of Palms is still very popular, but there was always a pretty good bit of inventory on Isle of Palms, which is also where our gated resort Wild Dunes is. And so we've seen a rush there. Sullivan's, you pretty much can't even find anything. Everything on Sullivan's is occurring off market. It has become the haven of B and C list celebrities from all over the country, as well as captains of industry. So it's very interesting to see some of your more quasi-famous celebrities who think they're a lot more famous than they really are, buy a really expensive house on Sullivan's and hold court in one of our local bars or that kind of thing. But that's become a favorite of that area. Folly Beach, which has always kind of been considered the people's beach, a little more bohemian, where prices have always had a really strong return, has blown up. So, in 2019, you could have bought a tear down for $400,000. Today, your tear down is $1 million. And so just a dramatic increase on that kind of price. Kiowa remains to be pretty much one of the most exclusive resorts in the country, still home to billionaires and potential presidential hopefuls. Past presidents have second homes there. And so that area continues to really just kind of set markets. And all of that is considered an off-market private transaction. So we actually can't even really talk about it because they're not part of the MLS on Kiowa. So they are realtors, but they are not MLS users. And so we have a whole different mechanism that we have to sell out there. So.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And then Colleen, about if there are rentals available and what are the rental prices kind of doing for Scottsdale for that 3-6 month year-round thing as people try to get there to find something they want?
Yeah, it can be maybe as low as maybe $1,700 a month, up to, 6,000-7,000, depending on the home and depending on the area. And if it's a condo or a single family home. So you could pay in the outskirts of the other areas might be a little bit more reasonable, but maybe still starting at around 1,500. But if you're looking for a halfway decent 4-bedroom, 2-bath in Scottsdale, you're probably starting around 2,800, 3,000 a month, and on up to 10,000.
And Jeffrey, just for us, for our market, right? We've been a big summer rental week by week or 2-week type of rental market. What we've seen last year and even going into this summer is longer terms. So people wanting for a month, 2 months, 3 months. And so what we're seeing, it's hard to, I guess, for a lot of folks probably compare prices because people want a lot longer than they had in the past for their vacation up here. As far as the rental prices, our year-round rental market, right, is non-existent on the Cape, as a lot of people know.
Was your last summer rental market good or bad? Right after
good, really good. And then already usually we're about 70% full for that, end of June through Labor Day type of time frame, that 12 weeks that we think of as our summer. Most everyone's over 95% full already for this summer.
Wow. Interesting. And are the rates substantially different than they were last summer and the summer before?
I think that they're finding, so it's been a weird time for a lot of us because starting kind of last summer and a little bit of the summer before, we instituted finally taxes on short-term rentals. So it instituted a 14%, in most areas, 12 to 14% tax on it. So I think that probably is just trying to play out. I think I've heard a lot of people saying they are going up a little bit on the rental prices in the past, but it's between last summer being such a mess as short-term rentals weren't even allowed till June 1st last year or something along those lines because of the shutdown. I think a lot of people scrambled and booked late. So I don't know if they had a real outcome on the prices. And then this year, I think people are seeing potentially what we're seeing is less inventory this year. A lot of people pulling about 10% we're hearing have pulled their home off for the summer rental that normally would be in because they're probably in it or don't want people coming to it, that kind of thing this year.
It's interesting because, and I think this might be valuable to your people up on Cape Cod. Palm Beach season typically is November through Easter. And last year was the first time that I know of in history where we didn't have an off season. It kept on going because of COVID. People stayed, they didn't leave, and more people were coming in. So we found that our off-season rentals here are not very good. I mean, they're usually half the normal rate. You usually can't rent them because people don't really want to be here in August and September, et cetera. We were getting winter season rates in the summer, and the season never ended. And then all of a sudden we started, season again in November here, and it's gotten stronger and stronger. And what I'm seeing, at least right now, is most of the people that typically would leave at Easter and go back in your direction, most of the people I'm talking to now, my clients, are not planning on leaving this summer either. So I think we're going to go through another period where instead of an off season in Palm Beach, we have this continuing, rolling train, going all the way through the summer. So I think if your people have clients who are thinking of doing something in Florida and are thinking that maybe they'll wait until the off season and maybe snag a bargain, or maybe there won't be quite as much activity, we really didn't see any diminishing of interest in May, June, July, August, September last year than we had from the winter. So it goes back to my point that I think the best time to buy is right now.
Yeah, so we saw last fall people extending things into September and October and staying here till then that normally may not have. And then I'm hearing, especially on the vineyard in Nantucket, where the seasons don't usually start till Memorial Day either. They're starting to see more activity in April and May for bookings as well.
I've got a house up in Maine, and last summer, by the middle of May, I usually have 6 or 7 weeks booked up there. Everything canceled by the middle of May. By the beginning of June, 2 weeks later, I had twice as many rentals as I've ever had up there. So, this is the kind of market that's so unpredictable that, I went from a normal season to no season to 2 weeks later, double the season. So, I think that it's kind of like, hold on, it's going to be a bumpy ride. I think that's happening all over the country.
Absolutely, and that your experience in Maine is what we saw last year, right? A lot of cancellations and then a lot of rebookings. So thank you guys so much for joining. I'm going to share your contact information, if you all don't mind, out with everyone who was on the call today, and how they can contact you for any more follow-up questions. We just really want to thank you guys for taking the time. Really appreciate you talking about your market. So Annie, any takeaways for you before we sign off as well?
Just wanted to thank you for sharing your insights with us. I got a couple of great quotes I'm going to use. I particularly liked the secretly praying for more inventory. We're all doing that. So thank you to all of you, and also thank you to all the agents who were able to gain some insights into that we're not alone in this. Everybody's experiencing these unusual market conditions, and we're all saying those prayers. So thank you again.
All right. Thank you guys very much and really appreciate it.
Thank you.